TRW. Game is La Reconquista, Edad Media, 8th century to 15th century, from the Spanish wargaming magazine ALEA from November 2011. My copy of the game came with this basic black and white photocopy English translation of the rules. One thing is, I've been using the short 4-letter versions of the unit names that are also used on the counters and the back of the counters. But I was thinking earlier, I want to start it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to start trying to incorporate the full names. Anyways, I'm in a very good mental spot with this game now. I think it actually really succeeds. By the way, before I forget, let me grab the Spanish version of the rules in the magazine. I want to make sure I give full credit here, because I'm starting to think this is a really good game. Where do they have the credits? Huh. That's interesting. Well, or is it right in front? There it is. Credits at the end. Designer is Enrique Martí. Obviously, it's ALEA magazine by Ludo Press. I think this is a real success. What's happened is I had read the rules in pieces here and there several times, but now, since I played last time, I actually sat down and went through the rules pretty much from beginning to end, and I do think it all comes together. Again, the bottom line is I think I called it a moderately simple, moderate, low, moderate complexity game. It has a few unusual mechanics, but each of those unusual mechanics isn't by itself very complex. I do think it's all clear now. So the biggest thing, I'll use this as an example. I was really thrown off. And by the way, of course I'm talking about the English. I'm not a Spanish speaker, so I'm not a native Spanish speaker, so I'm using the English translation of the rules. And so when I talk about the game and the design and everything, of course I'm talking about this English translation of the rules. And I was really thrown off by this language. I was thrown off, and I mentioned this before, the combat is always voluntary. Units will combat individually or supported by others. And first of all, I was reading too much into that. It's actually very simple. I was reading too much into it, and I was confused about why the designer was presenting what I thought was two different ways of doing combat. It's all the same form of combat. It is true that units combat individually or supported by others, but that's not to say that these are two different kinds of combat. So it is. Let me use eliminated units. Let's say this is our target unit, and so if we have, let's start with, obviously this. Actually, let's get a better. Let's do this, and let's do this. All right. So if this, boy, I'm gonna have to write out these names. If that, I guess there's no better time than the present. That Raksala infantry unit. Oh, and the other one is The other one is a Redautas. Thanks. All right. All right. So this unit is obviously going to combat individually. It has a attack dice value of 2. It's going to roll 2 dice, and that's that. That's attacking individually. If a second unit is involved like that, they're still attacking separately. You're going to roll 2 dice for this unit. You're going to roll 1 dice for this unit. But one of them is going to get the +1 for 2 or more units attacking the same unit. And I was thinking about this. Obviously, you're going to want to give it to your stronger unit. So your weaker units are in a sense supporting your stronger unit. The support is in the form of the die roll modifier, not that they don't attack themselves. And then it doesn't matter. You have a third unit. The third unit would attack. You still just have +1 for 2 or more units attacking the same unit. So that is that's basically it. That ooh, did I put, no, I put the wrong one back. I think that's, can't even remember which one I took. Oh well. That's kind of the last part that I had to get clear in my mind. And you can still have the combined arms. They don't call it combined arms, but this one, if you have an infantry attacking the same target unit with a cavalry unit, you're going to get +1 for each of those attacking units. So now I see how you can get up in your number of die roll modifiers, which is why the designer has these maximums. The +1 for a 1 attack die unit, +2 is the maximum positive modifiers for a 2 attack die unit, etc. So yeah, I think it all works. There's one, I guess I'll go ahead and mention it. I could also show it during play, but I'll just go ahead and, because I haven't even had it, and I know why I haven't had it, because this battle doesn't have ranged units. But let me try to recreate the example. Okay, so I've talked about this before. Each side has 9 archer units, and these archer units have on their backside number 1 through 9. At the start of it's actually, I think at the start of the movement phase, I think. Well, that's interesting. Does that make... it's pretty clear. No, never mind. When the game turn starts. So, at the start of the game turn, each player is going to shuffle their 9 archer units, draw 3 randomly, look at them. You can look at them, and then you're going to put them face down next to your side of the board. I have them showing up to show that these are my 3 archer unit markers that I'm going to be using for this turn. What I'm not talking about is there are archer units. There's not in this battle, so let's just say that this is an archer unit. Because you also have archer units, okay? So let's say this is an archer unit. He's right there. He can fire 2 hexes. As I understand it, when he goes to fire, as a matter of fact, I'll just, there it is. The player chooses randomly one of his archer markers and shows it to the opponent. But here's the deal. They're not together. You have the 3 that you drew at the top of the turn, at the start of the turn. You have the remaining 6. So I'm going to play it simply, and I am just going to go ahead and draw from the 6 that are your pool to the side of the board that you didn't draw at the start of the turn. Now, I'm not sure what that does to probabilities or anything, but the way you do it is you turn it over, you show the opponent, I have a 4, and then you roll 2d6. So here's my archer unit firing at 2 hex range. So you roll, he gets a 9. So if this value exceeds this value, the 4, by 1, the target unit is retreated. If it exceeds by 2, it's rallied. Which again, remember, rally rally is like rout. It just clicked. It just clicked in my mind. It's translated as rally, but no, it's routed. So it's retreated. Worse than retreated is routed, or what they call rally, but routed. And then there's decimated, which is really just a step loss. And if it's 3, if this roll exceeds this number by 3 or more, then it's a step loss, which, by the way, this makes it seem like your archers are going to be really powerful. Because I don't see, I'm sorry, there are die roll modifiers. Okay, so, and by the way, after you're done, after you apply the results of the archer attack, you flip that unit in and you put it back into your pool and shuffle it for the next time. But what I don't understand is, I mean, you have 3 randomly pulled out as well, so I mean that's your pool. So you know the 3 that you drew, you know the 6 that are remaining. Again, I don't know how much difference. This is actually a mechanic that I'm just chalking up to the designer maybe just wanted something not too complicated, maybe. And again, I haven't played a battle with these archer units. I want to try that. But there are die roll modifiers. If the target is stacked with a fortress marker, it's -1. That makes sense. If the target is a heavy horse unit, an order unit, or a ribat unit, which is heavy cavalry, knights basically, there's a +1. Oh, I'm sorry. If it's a heavy horse unit that has not charged in the previous impulse, +1. Okay, that makes them easier to hit. Basically, if they're stationary heavy horse, so to speak. If they're stationary knights, so to speak. Okay. I guess they're talking size of the target. There is this +1. So that still seems like, I mean, your markers are 1 to 9. So your average are 4, 5, and 6. So your average is 5. You're rolling 2 dice. That's kind of easy to hit. A little surprised by that procedure, but it is what it is. I am pretty sure that that's all correct. I also need to get to terrain. Terrain's kind of interesting. And so terrain's kind of interesting. I haven't even gotten to that. And add on top of that, you have these cards. I haven't even mentioned, I have mentioned them, I haven't shown them. Basically, if you roll a 3, so at the start of the turn, when you're rolling for your activation, if you roll Snake Eyes, which has a name here, but, well, I'll go ahead and find it. If you roll a, where is it? If you roll a, where is it? There's a special name for Snake Eyes here. If you roll a ADA, they call it ADA. If you roll ADA, which is Snake Eyes, you get to either re-roll or deploy your reinforcements. I'll make sure I got that right. That's what I remember. yeah. Roll Otta, or Snake Eyes. You roll the dice again, or you can employ replacements. I guess I should call them with, I said reinforcements, replacements. If you roll a 3, that's called Baraka. It's called Luck in Combat. The player additionally takes 1 Campi Doctor card. Is that what all of these are? I think you play one of these cards. And it looks like each of these cards can be played only once. At some point, especially now that I'm moving along with this game, I will make my own cards at some point. My own copies of those cards. Keep the master, but make my own version. It looks like these cards can only be used once. It can't be refunded in his pack. It cannot be returned to the deck. Okay. Yeah, it's all coming together. I'm optimistic. Again, we're talking 30 battles. I spent a little more time after playing last just kind of scanning all of these different battles represented in this game. It's pretty incredible. And we're talking, not only do we simply have 30 battles from 7th to 15th centuries, but I mean, I'll tell you the only battles, and by the way, there are multiple names here. I said there was only one battle I recognized. That's actually not true, and the reason is because these battles have multiple names. I won't get into why, but so that's why I think 3 or 4. This battle, however you pronounce that name, I'm aware of that name because that's a battle from Charlemagne. So 1, and then there's just a few more that I recognize, like, again, some of these names that threw me off because there were multiple versions here of the names. Najera, I think how you pronounce that. Oh wait, I'm sorry, this is the 100, this isn't the 30, this is the very, very interesting article about 100 battles. But these are the 30 that are represented. It would be neat if the designer had done a second volume and done another 20 to 30 battles from the 100 that are presented in this article. So the 100 that are presented in this article includes the 30 that are set up as scenarios. So it would have been neat to have a volume 2 and take another 20 to 30 of those battles from this era. But this is where I was looking, and some of these names. So I've heard of, obviously Nicopolis, and there's that name again, Charlemagne. So interesting stuff. Do have to get to a battle with some terrain.